Oh, I think there are people here. Sorry, I was just sitting here freaking humming to myself. Put the chat up. If you can hear me and you can see me and you can hear this right now, please let me know because I've had a bunch of freaking issues over the last few lives. Where'd my new post go? There it is. Okay. Just gonna send that over to the group also. Beep boop. Okie doke. That should be all, and I'm back on my shitty laptop camera to make sure no frames get dropped. Since I just posted it on Tumblr, I'm gonna give it just a minute or two. And I'm gonna close my door real quick. You can see my cat laying very awkwardly behind me. Still, I'm with you. Trying to log in. Can see and hear you. This lovely humming. Thank you. Oh, and I love your shirt. Thank you. It's from Walmart. It was $7. Nobody, nobody. Trying to sign in on here, but I don't know if I can. Or whatever. I'll just leave that. Okay, what's the time? 8:05. I feel like we'll go. This is a long one, so we might as well go ahead and get this.
It's my sister Jessa
going.
and her.
And just as a preface, because I know people who watch this back, I feel like I don't give a lot of context sometimes for what I'm doing. This is Jessa Duggar Seewald and her husband being interviewed by Ginger Duggar Volo and her husband Jeremy about their sixth baby, which they recently announced, and just other stuff about being on TV on TLC for like a decade and stuff like that. So with that said, here we go.
Husband Ben.
What's going on, guys? I don't know if it's gone exactly like we thought it would go. We knew we wanted to have, a decent number of kids, maybe like 6 or 7 or 8.
I said, I'm number 5. 5 is such a special number in my heart.
And then
we should really have 5.
Then you remembered me.
Actually, no. I did use that. I said, my best friend was number 6 in the family.
Yeah.
We should really have a number 6.
Not to pause so early on, but you could say that about like 20 more people.
I did say that many times.
I said that wouldn't work out so well for like.
You'd keep making that excuse for like 15 more kids.
Josie or something. I was number 19, so.
Oh, mercy.
So historically, we've told y'all the gender of a lot of our babies because y'all are like far away, and I don't feel like people pester you and be like trying to, get it out of you.
Should we tell them right here live on the podcast?
Live.
Maybe
when we
do the
cut
big
the
reveal.
When we cut the cameras.
Wow, Ben, you're living on the wild side.
Okay, so the gender of your baby. What's the gender of your baby?
It's
I know what justice is. I know what it looks like.
It's
every day I wake up and I try to honor that promise that
It's a stabler. The gender is stabler. That is his name. I haven't watched it in a long time.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Ginger and Jeremy podcast. We're here for another episode, and we've got
my twin. Well, some people would say that she's my twin. I'm actually not a twin, but it's my sister Jessa and her husband Ben.
What's going on, guys?
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks
this
for
is so
being
fun.
on.
And
so
baby
excited.
Seewald.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are these clogs Jeremy has going on? Those are interesting.
Coming July 21st, Lord willing.
Yeah.
And Finnegan is in the room, so if you hear
little noises.
Noises. He's smiling at
He's
us.
so happy.
Yes.
So cute.
It's either going to be interesting, like the Joy and Austin one was pretty interesting. I got a few new bits of information from that one. Or it's going to be very boring, and that's just kind of how Duggar stuff goes.
The other
We're
kids
really
are running
fucking
around the
bored.
house wreaking havoc, probably.
No, they're cleaning the house. They said that they would have it all clean.
Yeah,
It's
they're
gonna
all
be
cleaning.
pristine. Yeah, by the time we're
The
done,
dust.
it's gonna be great.
I don't like
So
where
how
I'm
you
at
guys
right
doing?
now.
Doing great. Yeah, we've enjoyed hanging out with you guys, being here in Cali.
It's been a fun week.
Great vacation.
Yes.
Why don't we start out with a little life update from the Seewalds? You guys have kind of been out of the public spotlight for a while. A little bit, right?
Yeah, we've
you
been a
haven't
little
been-
busy. I feel like 5 kids has kind of stretched us to the limit. So we for sure,
No shit.
not on social media as much. I think I've been on my YouTube channel twice in the last year. So definitely slowed down.
Hey, Evie. Ginger gets top billing. Yeah, she's the
People
big,
miss you.
the
I
big
think the
name
people
out of
miss you.
those two, at least.
She's been trying to be on her phone less and just be more present and all that. So,
I give myself 1 minute on Instagram every day. So
Do you really?
really going crazy.
Wow.
but I have the code.
1 minute?
1 minute.
She gave me the code, and so
1 minute.
it's a great feeling of power. You know.
At that point, why be on it at all? Like 1 minute is like, I don't know. I feel like you couldn't even see like your family and friends posts in that
Well,
time.
I gave myself the screen time code first, but then I would just type it in so
Yes.
fast. I would give myself 15 more minutes. Finally, I said, babe, I want you to put the code, and I want to have 1 minute. And if I need to,
That's amazing.
post or see something, whatever, then I'll like ask him when he gets home in the evening. Just
I might need to do that. I feel like
It's
I might need to do that for a couple months because I'll do that sometimes, but at some point you get just so captivated by everything that's happening around you. You know, you're just wanting to constantly scroll, and I just keep going back to that. And then I'll be sitting there for an hour scrolling, and I'm like, wait, I just wasted all that time. That was so
Oh,
unprofitable.
it goes away so fast.
And yeah, especially with kids, your kids around. It's one thing if you're doing work and there's an allotted time where they're not watching you on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But if we're like, oh, you shouldn't be on the phone, we don't want you to have that screen time, then it's convicting to think like, how much time am I spending?
I know.
Well, yeah, and especially like as you think ahead to when they're teenagers, and do we want them on their phones?
Also, if I'm looking down, I absolutely am listening. I'm trying to log in on the second phone. So I can
While it's like family time.
recently come into a second phone, and I'm trying to sync my Google account, but I am listening.
While we have
Yeah.
guests, do we want them like staring at the screen?
Totally.
But are we setting a bad example? Like
Mhm.
their whole growing up years, have they been seeing us on our screens when they're around and they're trying to get our attention?
Yeah.
And so sometimes what we've done is Jessa, if she needs to do some social media stuff, she'll go over to my office, and that way she's away, she's working, but then when she comes back, it's like, she's not having to do all that in front
That's
of.
great.
Sometimes we do that. We need to do a better job, but
Yeah.
Um,
still got room for growth.
We all.
yeah, we can easily forget. But yeah, trying to keep that in mind. Like, what kind of example are we setting?
I like it.
What can you accomplish in 1 minute on Instagram? I'm actually very curious about that. Like, what does that scratch the itch for you?
Okay, so
You watch 4 reels and you're out?
you can go in your Instagram and you can turn off like random content showing up in your feed.
Oh,
So it'll just be people who you follow, which I really like. Yeah, but
I
you can
love
only
that.
pause it for 30 days. So you go in the settings and I'll pause it for 30 days. So that way when I do pop on there for a minute, I'll see like, the first 3 posts or something like that.
Mhm.
I'll watch half of an Allie Beth Stuckey reel or something like
You can
that.
see Kristen.
Shout out, Allie Beth.
Not Allie Beth Stuckey. I've always pronounced her last name Stookie in my mind for some reason. I'm realizing that's probably wrong, but
let's go.
tomato.
But
love that.
yeah, it just kind of keeps me in check there. Oh, I can add 1 more minute. It'll say
Yeah, they're so tired from 5, but let's have
add
6,
1 more minute.
7, 8. I'm
Yes.
sure.
So I get 2 minutes. I
on
get 2 minutes every
No, I've got a
day.
question. So I've tried this before where if I'm spending too much time on Twitter, or like for a while had my websites I would just do a rotation of. I would go to Twitter, CNN, Fox News, because you got to be balanced.
Yeah.
You go to CNN and there's this world-ending catastrophe.
You could be balanced without watching Fox News or CNN, to be quite frank. I'm like not a huge fan of CNN. I think they're as close to like liberal Fox News as you can probably get. Like they just kind of don't they're a little sensationalist sometimes. Just go middle of the road, MSNBC, or I don't know. There's other stuff Why you gotta go with the two most crazy
So I go to
ones?
Fox News. They haven't said anything about it. So I go, okay, it's got to be somewhere in between. And then I would go to
Crazy.
ESPN.
Is it just me, or has Ben like crazy swole? No, he's looking swole as hell, and he's also got a very tight t-shirt on.
I would like do this cycle.
Might be
Every
adding
And
to
I find
it.
myself doing it. So then I cut those out and I was like, okay, I'm not going to go to CNN and Fox News. So then I just replaced it with like Drudge Report.
I also don't believe that he's watching CNN. I'm gonna be so fucking
Do
for
you
real.
find yourself like going, oh man, look at me, I'm doing good, I'm off Instagram, so now I'm on YouTube Shorts for like,
Oh,
Totally.
yeah. There's always that struggle. You know,
That's real.
it's always, you know, everybody will waste time in their own way, right? Like we
Yeah.
always will have time that will fill. But I've been trying to do more like picking up books, like physical books, whenever I can, like over the kids' rest time or whatever. Just trying to read more. And I definitely go through spurts. I don't do it perfectly at all, but yeah.
Sometimes it can be so impulsive too. Like you'll just sit down and out of habit, you won't even be thinking about it. You'll just pick up your phone and get on the website that you're like the first one in your cycle, right? And so
sneezing away over here. That's not
bless you, Finn. But yeah, sometimes what we've had to do is like just say, hey, for the next week, no internet. And it kind of breaks your habit. It breaks your routine. And then you start to sit down and eat lunch and you're not grabbing for your phone by the end of the week or whatever. Yeah. And then it sort of just helps you reset. So we've done that sometimes and that's been helpful.
I love it.
But yeah.
All right, this has been super good and convicting in the first 4 minutes. I hope people don't cut out our podcast. So.
Don't turn off the
Don't
podcast.
turn
Keep
off the
listening.
podcast.
They have a lot of good
We're
things
so
to say.
convicted, they just turned it off. So give us a life update. Where are the Seewalds now? Talk about, you've got 5 kids, you got a 6th on the way.
You have an endless scope
Jesus.
of freelancers
Just
at
about
your
to-
fingertips to help you progress in whatever category you need. My business is entertainment.
I feel like YouTube's
what's
been a little more aggressive with the ads lately. I think it's because I keep declining premium because I'm just not going to pay. I already have YouTube TV. I'm not going to pay for premium.
Yeah, we're in the thick of just parenting
Yeah, Nike for those man boobies he's got
and
going on.
homeschooling.
Like muscle boobies, not like that.
Our oldest 3 are in school now. And so that's probably part of the pressure to like, you know, be off my.
He's got kind of a fuckboy haircut going on too. He's got like the traditional white guy, I only drink IPAs kind of look going on. If that guy also went to the gym.
Phone more, just be more present, be more in tune to what we need to get done in a day. And he's been pastoring full time for 5 years now.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's been 5
Imagine your pastor looked like that.
years since you started pastoring.
Yeah,
the time's flown by. You know what we were saying the other day is that's half
He's
as
a
long as we've been
pastor.
married.
Whoa.
Wow.
half our.
Well, it's crazy that you've been married 10 years.
I know.
How is that possible?
And you just turned 30 by the
Spurgeon's-
time this comes out.
Yeah.
And Spurgeon's
That's crazy. That's crazy. He just turned 30 and he's been married for a decade. That's crazy.
10 now.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Almost
That's
10. Almost 10. He's
there.
not 10
Yep.
yet.
Hey, I remember this, Jessa, looking just like you did when we first kind of hung out. When we first
Yes.
met, you were just
Yes.
announced you were pregnant.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I came up to Dallas to visit you guys at the conference, and you were looking more like you are now.
Yeah, we came
With
down and
Spurgeon.
visited you in Laredo, and I remember you took a photo of Ben and I on the Rio there, and I had the big, you know, Spurgeon was very about due. Yeah,
Wow. That's crazy.
My Tumblr namesake, Spurgie.
It's wild that that's 10 years ago.
I
Man,
know.
yeah.
Oh, my word.
And so much has changed, but then nothing's changed.
I know.
Isn't that funny? Like,
Wow.
Crazy.
it feels
I will say Jessa looks exactly the same. She looks identical to me. But I mean, she's not that old too. So it's not like she basically went from a teenager to
like yesterday,
Yeah.
but
A
then we've lived a
30-year-old.
lifetime in 10 years. You know,
Yeah.
feels like.
I know.
You were running out to the gas station to get those tacos
Oh yeah.
for breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, let's
Raymond-
talk about
Raymond
those.
Taco Company.
Stripe.
Because he's a
Stripes
bachelor,
tacos.
so he's like, you know,
They're so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
good.
feed my guests for breakfast because we didn't just come to town. We crashed his apartment.
He's
I
like,
love
stay
it.
Stay
with
with
me.
you.
He gave us his
You
room.
sleep
And
on
where
the
did
floor
you
in your
sleep?
living room.
On the
I
floor.
slept on the floor. Yeah.
There's no way you could have slept on the couch. The couch wasn't that long. It was like a love seat.
Yeah, yeah.
So you must have
A
slept
love
on
seat with no one to love. I was single and alone.
Oh, we sat there for hours. I remember we were like going through Ben's Facebook. We're like,
Who
there's
could,
got to be somebody on
we
here.
gotta find you somebody, Jeremy.
Hey, let's talk about those.
This is such a Christian thing to do because that is something people would do all the time. Is if somebody was single, just it was like everybody's personal mission to find them somebody from their church or their friend group to match them up with. And they would be like 25 or under, or maybe, like I think Jeremy was like 25, 26, 27, somewhere in there, but it is like once you get past 25, they're all like scrambling to try to find you somebody to marry.
Those early days, because you guys were instrumental
Trying to
in
turn my
this
vibration
happening.
Bringing
off
us
of
together.
I
this
mean, it
stuff.
didn't happen without you guys. But
That's for sure.
those, I don't know if we've ever talked about those early days. Like we've talked about how we got connected, but I remember that trip vividly.
Well, okay, we have to go back to how you got connected. Just a real quick recap for anybody who does not
crazy.
know.
That was really crazy. Just how.
Oh yeah,
So y'all
how we met.
Yeah.
That's
So we had flown into San Antonio. We were going to be meeting up with some of the family there.
Not to pause so much, but San Antonio, the hottest freaking place in the world, the
And
butthole
we
of
had
the
some
earth.
time to kill.
Butthole in the sense it's warm, not that it's a bad
The
place.
Lord had a plan because we got there hours before the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And we're like, what are we going
That's actually a weird analogy.
to do in San Antonio? Do we know anyone here? And I was like, wait a second. I have this friend on Facebook that he's been my Facebook friend for like a number of years since I was like 13. And, but I've never met him in person, but I've always been inspired by like his posts. He's always posting about the gospel. And so I was like,
Also
I-
very
So the thing that he
on there
said
either,
was,
did he?
yes, that was the
Profile.
thing. Ben said he's not self-focused. He never posts a picture of
So,
himself. He has no clue what this guy
at this
looks like.
point,
Jeremy, oh my God, imagine not self-focused. Are you sure?
I still have no idea what this guy even looks like.
Matthew Wade Garza.
Imagine.
Yeah. So he
Legend.
messages him and he's like, "We're in town." And the guy said, "Some of the brothers are gathered at a house in San Antonio
They're
He
eating
didn't
pizza.
Pizza.
to eat pizza." He didn't say he wasn't going to be there. So we roll up and we're like, "Where's Matt?" And people are like, "Oh,
Well,
Matt's working."
first of all, pause.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're not talking about Jeremy.
You're getting too ahead of it.
Let's take a break from this episode to tell you about Ava.
Ginger, I have a
Does
question
it-
for you. When, this is the last time.
I'm gonna
you thought
fast
about your
forward,
credit
but-
score.
What is it?
Okay, if you're like Ginger and that's your answer, like oof, or I don't remember, you're missing out on lower payments, better rates, bigger opportunities, and that's where Ava comes in because Ava
Okay, and they
is
have a
an app that
ZocDoc
helps you-
shoved in there.
Your
I think
medical
this
issue
is
comes
still-
up. We're sitting there Googling, oh no, what could this
doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/ginger. That's ZocDoc. ZocDoc. Say ZocDoc.com.
Now back to the episode.
Matt, I call him on the phone. He gives me his number. I call him. I said, "Hey, man, we'd love to hang out if you got some time. I mean, we're here in San Antonio." And he says, "Great. Well, you guys are at the Riverwalk. There's some Christians nearby. There's some brothers from our church. They're having a pizza party. I'll send someone to pick you up."
That's true.
And so he said, "This other guy, he'll pick you up in this silver SUV behind the Alamo." So just you see this silver SUV pull up behind the Alamo, hop in, and he'll take you to the house.
Sounds like the
Very-
beginning of a murder mystery.
Yeah,
And so
very
we
drug
did.
lord.
We
of them.
That's
waited
wild.
there. We walked up, and there rolls up this silver SUV. We
Glenn
jumped in,
Ferris pulls up in his SUV
and he
jumps
takes us
into
to
a
this
random
house.
stranger.
And sure enough, there's
It was Jeremy's house.
a bunch of
So,
Christians eating pizza.
Here's my vantage point from that side of things. I'm in Laredo. At that point, I was preaching in Laredo. I'd go down there. I'd come back on a Sunday. And there was this homeless guy, Bobby, who was in a real tough situation. And so we decided
As most
we're going to help
homeless
Bobby
are.
out. We tried to help him out in Laredo, but it wasn't working. There were some bad, seedy characters around Bobby. So we get Bobby. He comes with us up to San Antonio, and I'm taking him to a homeless shelter in the night. And I get a call. No, I get a text from somebody in the church going, "You'll never guess who's at your house." So I just start guessing like random people. And they go, "Ben and Jessa Seewald." And the reason I'd known you guys is because the pastor's family who I was staying with for some time would watch the show, and I would always make
Every fucking evangelical person around this time in the early 2000s knew who
Fun of
the
it.
Duggars
So
were
I would
and the
take pictures.
Jasons.
I remember one time I was at
Everyone
at
did.
a place, and you gonna put a passing in as well? I'm at a place. I see a picture of you guys on a magazine, like
I thought I heard a kid in the background, but I didn't know if that was just because I had the headphones
People
on.
magazine.
Or like I heard
and I take
more.
a picture of it and like send it with like a sarcastic text to all those
Yeah.
girls. Like, oh, look at your favorite people on this magazine, you know? So that's how I knew you guys because of them. So then they go, Ben, just see what I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, they're not at my house.
That is so funny.
So I come back and I walk in and I see you, Ben. And I'm like, what's up, dude? And we just start talking.
Yeah.
And here is my first impression of Ben. I'm talking. You asked me probably a leading question, like, so what do you do? So I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm pastoring at a church. And I finish and you go, hey, where's the bathroom?
Yeah.
And I went, oh, it's over there.
You're like, okay, I've just been talking to guys ear off, and he has to go
I
to
just
the
thought
bathroom
like, oh,
so bad.
he's not listening to me at all. Like,
All I need to do is go to the bathroom.
Okay, so here's my first impression of Jeremy.
That is very Ben.
He walks in and he's
That
in
feels
this
on
sweater
brand.
that has this particular collar, and it comes down and has a button. And it was Ginger's favorite kind of sweater.
Jess is like, I didn't know men wore sweaters.
And the reason you know that is because we would always go and like style our younger brothers.
We would always pick out those, the clothes for the brothers or whatever,
Yeah.
and go shopping for them.
Yep.
And so when I saw that, I was like, I wonder if that guy's single.
Lose up to 20% of your body
Girl,
weight
I tell
in
you
less
what.
than a year. Kick things off with a free virtual consult. No
They
waiting
are-
rooms, no stress.
attacking me with
And
that.
That's Ginger's favorite kind of sweater right there.
hey,
He's
all
wearing
it takes to impress Ginger, the right kind of sweater. And you're in.
Oh my.
I was just gonna say, like, that's kind of funny that like self-expression is so limited in their community that she saw kind of a fancy sweater and she's like, I bet she knew that he would probably be on Ginger's wavelength.
Oh my goodness,
So
I love it.
you come back and we're chatting. There's probably 20 people at the house or whatever. And then you were like, hey, dude, let me get your number. Let's stay in touch. I was like, yeah, sure. So that's what we did. And
Way to go,
here's
Ben.
something about Ben. I was thinking about this about you yesterday because we were in the car coming back from the beach and someone called Ben, who you and I met 9 years ago.
Hmm.
We went to a juvenile detention center
Yeah.
and we're sharing the gospel with this kid. And 9 years later,
Wow.
there's a call comes up on Ben's phone. He goes, oh, that's, and I'm
So-and-so.
like
Yeah.
thinking, but you know what else? First I thought, wow. And then my second thought was, yeah, that's Ben. Like he just invests in people and he just consistently just stays pouring into their life.
Very
So he
pastoral.
ended that call by going, hey, well, why don't you just finish up reading the book of Galatians and next week we'll pick up where we left off. And I'm like, 9 years later, he's still doing a Bible study
That's
with
awesome.
a kid who was at the time in juvenile detention, now is in big boy.
He's a man now.
Yeah, but he's in big boy jail. And he's still doing a Bible study with him.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
that was Ben. So I didn't know it at the time, but when Ben was like, hey, let me get your number and keep in touch, we kept in touch. And we just, and then you invited me out to a Dallas conference,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You showed up.
a Big Sandy conference.
Yeah, well, you would like
Of course it was Big Sam.
called and well, you said something like, hey, if you know of any godly single girls, like, you know.
No, I remember that text conversation. I might still have it. I said, how can I pray for you? And you shared something. Then you said, how can I pray for you? And I'm like, bro, I need a wife.
And it's lonely being in the
I need a wife. Not like I need a partner. I need a partner in life.
ministry. And
It's
being
I need a wife.
lonely in
single, right?
Laredo. And you went, well, I know a few girls. And then it was
What do you bet? It was a half sip.
like a couple months later, you invited me out to this,
It was. I
this
dared
conference in Big Sandy.
Yeah.
Because what other sweaters are the freaking fundies wearing? If not like the little half like mock, that's like the fancy. I can picture the little Duggars when they got like photographed by People magazine in those sweaters. So yeah, absolutely. Big Sandy mentioned.
Yeah. Man.
And so
Big
that's how,
Sandy
dude,
mentioned.
pulling up to that conference, it was wild. I first met Ryan.
The amount of atrocities Big Sandy is responsible for at this point.
Remember Ryan?
Yeah.
And he comes up in a golf cart. It's like, what's up, dude? And I'm like, hey, man, where am I? Like all these massive families, they all have these huge RVs, right?
Yeah.
Or like buses.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling into this camp like, where am I? They're playing volleyball. Everybody's dressed the same. I was like, what am I? And then Ryan pulls up. It's like, what's up, dude?
Yeah, man, we
Get
had
on board.
an agenda though, didn't we? We were like, I mean, that's kind
I
of
remember
the main
meeting
reason we
you.
were
Get
there is
Jeremy
like,
married
all right,
to
we
a
gotta
cult
set
member.
up some meetings. We gotta get some conversations in.
Oh yeah.
Dude, you're a
It's
sneaky
only
guy.
this many hours from Laredo, so you could like drive up.
Yep. And
Here's
spend
another
time.
thing. Here's another thing I've got to say about Ben, because he's got this like, okay, he's planning and scheming to set me up. Ben,
We
Ben's
both were.
matchmaking works.
Jess
10
is
years
matchmaking
later
behind
from
me, too.
that, you just set up another couple that we just attended their wedding in Arkansas a few months ago.
Hey,
Yeah, that's
2 out
crazy.
of however many that didn't
That's
work.
actually true.
Fails.
Two
Are those the only
for
two that have worked? Me,
how
Yeah,
many?
Ginge, and
so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you just put a bug in someone's ear, put a suggestion, and then see what God does from there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But I mean, that's pretty successful. It
yeah.
really is.
Well, praise the Lord.
I love it.
Two
Well, I
for how
remember
many?
meeting Jeremy. I remember that meeting because we were just staying outside. This is how I remember it, at least. And I was wearing this green dress thing. We were about to go get family pictures down by the lake. And Jared rolls up. And I met him because I had heard quite a bit about him because of y'all. You told me quite a bit about Jared in this ministry
That was
he was
part
of
of strategy.
But
But
at
you
the
got to
same
start
time,
dropping,
Yeah.
talking this guy up, subtle hints. Not that you need to be
Seriously,
talked
bring him
up,
over.
but she just started talking about you.
Okay, real quick. Ginger had to step out to feed the baby. So Jessa is going to, as her twin, you're going to finish her story.
So we're driving on the campus there. Ben and I hopped in Jer's car, and
Ben was just talking. Why? What?
we're rolling on like the back side of the campus. There's nobody around, and Jeremy is crawling. And I said, Jeremy, you are driving like a grandma. Speed up. And he said, the speed limit sign says 25.
That not to pause too much, but people tell me that too because I obey the traffic laws.
And then you went into this story about how one time you were driving a pastor and you were talking to him and you were cruising along and you started speeding. You didn't know it. And that the man just looked over at you and said, son, the law of God is behind the speed limit sign.
Wow.
And how that made an impression on you. And
God is the law of God's behind 65 on the highway. What does that mean?
and that made an impression on me. Now
Whoa.
I've never been able to speed since then.
Seriously.
Yep.
How did the law of God? You mean like local, like state Congress? Like God is motivating local state. I don't know. That's a stupid way to put that. I can't think of like the governing body that makes speed limits, but Jesus fucking Christ. That just tickled my goddamn funny bone.
Nope. I feel that conviction.
We still think about that story.
Here, Jeremy speeds.
Yeah.
And that like motivated you? He said like the law of God is behind the people who set speed limits, and you were just like, oh my God, I'm so moved. And they still like that's such a fucking fundamentalist thing to say.
Oh, Jerry, you've gone back.
I
You've
have
regressed.
completely forgotten about that.
But we're here to remind you. We've come to.
Okay, but here's the reality. In LA,
That is so goddamn funny.
so yesterday I was doing 80 and a 65, and there's a police officer.
So he doesn't believe that anymore. I don't know why the fuck that's tickling my funny bone so much, but they're like, every time we're tempted to speed, we think about how the law of God is behind speed limits. And then Jeremy's like, so yesterday I was doing 25 over the speed limit.
On the side, and they don't react. You can, in fact, if you're going the speed limit, you're in trouble.
I'm a little sleepy. Maybe things are just
Like
extra funny.
you're gonna
You
get
probably
hit.
get in the flow and whatever,
It's
whether
flow.
you're going 5 miles per hour or 70 or whatever.
Now I know I just
Yeah.
confessed to. Is that a misdemeanor? No. You
Literally though, literally, you could get. I used to be a speeder. You could get fined a lot of money
go
for
with
that.
the flow. You gotta be.
Yeah.
But out here in LA, it's different.
It's different. It's not Arkansas.
It's wild. And what's funny is when I first moved to Texas, so I'm from the Northeast in Pennsylvania, and you would go easily 10 over and nobody would notice. And then I drove to Texas from Pennsylvania. And I think once in Louisiana, I got pulled over and I was going 81 in a 70. And the officer's kind of upset, comes up and says, do you know how fast you were going? I go, or no, he goes, you know why I pulled you over? I said, was I going too fast or something? He said, you were doing 80. And I went, no, he said, you were doing 81. And I went, oh, officer, I'm sorry. I thought I was doing 80. And he goes, so you admit you're going 10 over? And I went, yeah, I'll be right back. So he goes, and I'm like looking at my dad like,
tired of typing tons of notes during class? There's finally a better way. It's called Otter.
I swear to God,
Let's
though,
say I'm in class.
that is so freaking funny to me.
wait, what's
I live down in the middle of nowhere and I got pulled over for doing like 15 over and I got one time it was like close to 20. I got fined a bunch of money. But it's just what is the reasoning for saying the like God is behind speed limits? I would love for them to explain that to me because I'm not making the connection there, except that I guess all of American government, even statewide, is ordained by God, or I don't fucking know. That is just such a fucking funny thing to say.
issue?
It's so
I'm going 10 over.
goddamn
I thought I was
funny.
going 10 over. Comes back, writes me a ticket for 10 over. I was like, what?
Good night.
So then I get
Yeah.
to Texas, like a day or two later. Same thing. I'm going like 8 over. Pulled me over. I'm going,
Probably a holiday
what's the
weekend
deal?
or some shit.
And at one point, I get pulled over a third time, like a few weeks after I moved to Texas. And I got off of this ticket because I literally was so exasperated. The cop comes up and I went, officer, look, I'm from Pennsylvania. We go 10 over. I've gotten pulled over 3 times now.
I missed the part where he said he's from Pennsylvania, or I just didn't know that. Because East Coast people, I need East Coast people to realize how like different it is. Like so fucking different. That makes a lot more sense. I'm sorry, Jeremy. That makes
not
more
used to
sense.
this. Like, I'm sorry, I gotta. And he just goes, all right, just slow it down.
Sorry to pause again. When I lived in Montana, people would do 100 on a 65, and I was like losing my mind because I'm like, what is going? It's even worse the more west you
I'm
go.
like,
Whoa.
thanks. Yeah, I was so exasperated.
Wow.
I was
Well,
like,
we would always say,
Wait, sorry, that's backwards. Anyway, disregard. That's backwards.
oh, they'll give you 5, you know, but then,
Right.
or I heard a police officer friend of ours say that their rule on their end was 9 in their mind. So if you're going 9 or more over, then they'll pull you over.
Oh, wow. 9
So I don't know. I had this framework in my mind and I was like, oh, I'm okay with going 5 over. I would always set my cruise right at that. But then after that conversation, Jared did something.
Gosh,
it's convicting.
Man, I got to go back. I would love to hear from.
Again, sorry to pause. I think it's just that's what's so funny about it is that Jessa and Ben heard him say that speed limits are ordained by God, and they were like, oh, like a light bulb went off for them somehow. Like, what do you mean?
A
But a
police
light
officer in
bulb
LA
went-
to see what is the moral, ethical thing
Yeah.
to do.
Oh God, don't go making me pause yet a fucking again. Like, yeah, we're going to the fucking police to be like, hey, give me a lesson on morality and ethics.
Yeah, you're gonna get plowed over
It's
in
right.
the
Make
hallway.
excuses for yourself. It's okay.
Yelling
It's
stuff
okay.
out. I love you can hear her on the mic.
Guess
That's
as
so
long as
funny.
it's not about
Okay,
shooting
so
innocent
those early
people,
days,
it's
man, those were
fine.
wild early days. And then here's just to finish the evolution of like your involvement in this whole thing was so I started having an interest in ginger. And I remember you saying to me, because you started to get more bold and you were like, hey, have you thought about ginger?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, ginger. And then you sent me a testimony video that like you'd used to do these YouTube videos. You like filmed her sharing her story.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, she's a sweet girl. And I'd seen her, obviously, and met her. And then I'm like, yeah, I think I'd like to get to know Ginger. And it was you said you should come on this missions trip
Yes.
to El Salvador because you had all
Another
these guys who were interested in Duggar girls
Mm-hmm.
and they'd come around and maybe act,
Going on the mission trip.
suspicious. But you were like, come with us on this missions trip. It'll give you an opportunity to get to know the family,
Mm-hmm.
give them an opportunity to get to know you, and you can also hang out and get to know Ginger a little better. And I think that really sealed the deal for us, right, Ginge?
Yeah.
Right, Ginge?
That's awesome.
The mission
mission
trip sealed
trip.
the deal. Yeah, it did.
And I wasn't even able to be on that mission trip. So I'm like
Right.
sitting there the whole time. Y'all don't have cell service really
Because
well.
those family conferences and then missions trips. That's like Love Island for
pregnant.
fundamentalists.
I'm like, what is going on down there? I need to get a report.
Oh yeah, anytime they would share any photos from the trip, Jess would be like zooming in and oh, there he is.
Were
Oh,
you
there
not
she
on
is.
the mission trip either?
No,
No, we weren't
Because
on that
Spurgeon
one.
was about due in November, right?
Yeah, I think so.
something like that.
Or maybe he was brand newborn.
He was born in November or no,
I
December?
don't remember which direction that was. I think he had just been born.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so talk to us about your early days here. Like, Ben, give us a little bit of how did you and Jessa meet? Talk about those.
So my family grew up and we were part of a pretty small church. And my parents they told us, hey, we'll take you guys and we'll visit other churches in other places, give you more opportunities to meet someone that you might be interested in. Just kind of broaden your horizons a little bit. Because we're homeschooled as well. Small church, homeschool, but we weren't part of a homeschool co-op even.
Yeah.
So outside of our immediate friend group, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to just meet new people.
Hey, can I pause you there real quick and ask your thoughts on this? So
I just saw myself in the little thing on the laptop cam with my Nito. I look a little insane just from what I can see, but that's fine.
I was talking to some people who are single and they're getting
I hate the laptop camera. I wish the better camera would work. I will make it work at some point.
older and wanting to be married. And my advice to them, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, and don't forget where you are in the story, but it coincides with what your family did. I told them, switch up your habits, like your socializing habits. Because you see the same people every week, all the time, and you go to the same events. Like, switch it up, visit a different church, go to different events, hang out with different people, sign up for this, sign up for that. Like, broaden your horizons. That's kind of what your parents did.
Definitely. Yeah, that's.
And I'm sorry again to pause. Those shoes Jeremy has on, somewhere in my brain I know what
Very good
kind they
advice.
are, like what brand.
And that's really what my parents did. And so we went up from central Arkansas to the northwest part of the state where her family lived. And we had a sort of a connection between our families, a mutual friend. And so we ended up going to her family's church that Sunday, that weekend. And that was our first real interaction, which wasn't much. My sisters and I, we worked together. They would go, see, if I just walk right up and start talking to her immediately, and if I show too much interest, I was afraid that would frighten her away. Oh, another fanboy, that's seen the show, he wants to date us or whatever.
Were you a fanboy who had seen the show who wanted to date her? Technically.
Okay, wow.
So she would have seen you for what you were.
But I wanted to come across a little less aggressive, like, of course, just not make her feel awkward.
Okay, what was the pact with your sisters?
Well, my sisters would go up, they would form a friendship, because then, say you have one meeting, it's easier for a girl to get another girl's number and keep up a connection there.
This was
versus just, I'm probably not going to get around to getting a phone number on my first interaction. Sure. So my sisters would go up, but they would say, oh, you got to meet our brother. He's so awesome. And I would do the same thing for them, like, oh, here's my amazing sisters,
so I love it.
When there was guys around. So we'd kind of talk each other up, help each other out.
This is how guys have to strategize. Yeah. It's a tough world out there. You got to get guys' attention.
Keep up good sibling relationships,
I mean, it's not like that in most other parts of the world, but I have to adjust my headset because it's like itching me. So I'm so sorry if it makes any noise.
Those can come in very handy.
Okay, so you also said that because you had 3 sisters directly under you, that you would watch like the chick flicks with them, or like watch like Pride and Prejudice, like the classics, and you'd be like,
I love that movie.
Strategizing. What is it about Mr. Darcy?
Well, yeah, initially I was like, why are they spending 5 hours watching this?
Finding freelancers is pretty easy. Fiverr is right there. I've used Fiverr for my video production business for maybe 10 years now. It's cost effective. You can find
this.
Sorry, sometimes when I move my hair like this, it keeps it from itching me.
Chick flick, this Pride and Prejudice period drama, like what in the world? And so, but I didn't have anything better to do.
Also, I'm so sorry if you're watching me for the first time and seeing me like I'm very fidgety. I have ADHD, like raging ADHD. I can't take Adderall anymore. I can't take Vyvanse anymore because of health issues. So I'm doing my best. I'm very fidgety. And it just kind of is like that.
To do, so I was like, I might.
Did you ever go to a conference? Yes, not Big Sandy, other different similar kinds of conferences.
Might as well watch this and see what all the fuss is about. Why are all the girls so enamored with Mr. Darcy? What do I need to learn from this guy? And so I
not Pride and Prejudice.
Started watching it. And
did his Riz translate to the modern era?
What's Riz?
I hope.
Is a feel.
That was my goal. That was my goal. But
oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, then anyways, sure enough, my sisters connected with, I think mainly they talked to Ginger because Ginger's pretty outgoing.
Yeah.
You know, Jess was a little quieter, a little more reserved initially, but I remember them talking to Ginger, and Ginger invited them to a conference. And I told my parents afterwards, I was like, I know it's in like 3 days, but we have to go. This is the opportunity. This is the chance.
So the whole Seawald family, by the way, I love the fact that you didn't just have a wingman, you had like a wing family.
Oh, totally.
You had sisters
I love
and
it.
parents who were like, whatever, Ben, we need you to get hitched, so we're going to help you
That is
however
so
you need.
funny.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's great.
My mom told me once after she did some deconstruction that she actually didn't have any like serious feelings about when I got married or had kids. And so it is really interesting to hear that a whole family, when Ben was like 19 years old, my mom told me this when I was like 27, like 28, 29, something like that. Ben was 19 years old when he got married, or 20, something like that. And his whole family apparently was just gunning for him to be married. That is weird. That's weird as fucking shit. I'm sorry. That's weird.
Yeah, he didn't actually say anything to me on that first meeting other than he walked up and he said, "Is that an iPhone?" And I was like,
Great first line, right?
I said, "Yeah,
That's very
it's
him.
an old one." And that was like
That was our first words.
that was all you
Was
said.
it
That
really?
was all I said.
Words.
We said nothing else until your family rolled up at the conference.
Jessa, do you like string cheese?
And you came in and I was near the registration helping put my siblings into the kids programs or whatever.
So sorry.
And you said, "Hi, I'm Ben Seewald." Okay, so he had grown out this little like what do you call that? Yeah, goatee. He had grown out a little goatee. And he was young. He was 17 and I was 20.
He was 17 at this time, and his family was like desperate for him to get married. That's crazy.
know he was that young. If I would have known that he was a teenager and I'm 20, I'm so grown up. I don't know if that would have changed things right off the bat, but I didn't know for months how old he was. And I thought, well, if he can grow facial hair, he's got to be like really, close to my age. So that fooled me.
Welcome back to the show, Jen.
You didn't have a driver's license at this point, right?
No.
You didn't have a driver's license. You weren't even driving.
But this motivated me to get.
And his family was trying to get like absorb that information, Jessa. He didn't have a driver's license, and his family was like all pushing for him to get married to somebody. Like that's so crazy. That's
My
so
driver's
unhealthy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's
He
talk
was a
about
kid.
that.
He was a
Get into that.
baby.
We are
Let's
gonna
talk
get
about
into
that because this was really funny.
Okay, so
Sorry. Not that she was much older, but she was like 3 years older. I mean, that is just crazy to me.
Getting a girl really motivated me whenever I was about 16, 17, and I spent a lot of time playing computer games and such. And my dad would come by and just say, "Son, it's time to be a man." When I became a man, I put away childish things. He just kind of quote a verse to me here and there, and I would be like, oh,
"No, but it did make
he's right.
You sold your gaming console.
He's
You're
right.
like, I need to grow up."
And
Also, I'm so sorry for fidgeting so much. This is just the way this is hitting my head is really bothering me. I'm just trying to make it less annoying. I hope I don't look too crazy. I'm so sorry, especially for people watching this later.
But then
Well, same also for people who are not
when
watching.
I met her and I had a reason to take road trips up to Northwest Arkansas. I was like, I really need to get my own driver's license. I have a truck. I need to get this show on the road, or else somebody's gonna swoop in and take her. So I remember I got my driver's license, and it was like the next week I told my parents, I was like, I think I'm gonna drive up to Northwest Arkansas. And my mom was like, "Oh, son, don't you think you ought to drive around town a little bit more and get some more experience before you take a 4-hour road trip?" And I reluctantly agreed. I was like, "Okay, I'll do that."
Give it a few more weeks.
But yeah, it was like a few weeks later. I remember I got up early Sunday morning. I don't know if my mom packed me a sandwich or what, but she kind of saw me out the door. She's like, "All right, good luck, son," and off I went.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see him show up again at church because I knew that their family had been in town for like a baseball game or something that first.
Yeah, that's like, so as far as like takeaways, like similar takeaways like from the Joy and Austin one that I'm gonna take away. One is that Ben was barely like well, he was a teenager, he was a child, and his parents were trying to get him married, as were his siblings. They were all working in conjunction to try to find him somebody to marry. And that the other thing I'll take away is that he couldn't even drive. He couldn't even drive. That's how young he was. And everybody was concerned with who he's going to marry. Like, that's crazy. Like I said, was not that much younger or older and didn't have that many more freedoms. But when people talk about how young fundy girls get roped into this, the men too, the men also, like Ben is one of those that it just bothers me how young he was when all of this was going down,
And then he showed up again, and I was like, oh, this guy's back.
So you noticed him.
So we did have a conversation then, and he said, he alluded.
If only his mother had tried to talk him out of getting married when he was so young. But yeah, I mean, it sounded like though everybody was gung-ho support of it, which
he was
is
wrapping up his studies at the community college, and he was thinking about transferring to the University of Arkansas. So he wanted to check out.
And he was still in school. I think when he first got with Jessa, he was doing like plumbing or like HVAC or something along those lines, which is a completely respectable line of work. I'm not saying it isn't. People make tons of money in those fields, but I don't know. He just was so fucking young. It just bothers me.
Out the area.
Right.
Well, I can't come to find out over months and months of him coming up, maybe once a month to visit.
Also, I need to stop cussing. YouTube really hates
church.
that.
The only thing he checked out in the area was church and then my family's house, because my brothers would be like, bro, come over and hang out.
You got to check out the people.
He has to play some flag football.
2 locations. Yeah.
That's
but you brought a bag of.
I did eventually.
But here's a big win. Here's big win number one for Ben is you noticed him.
Yeah.
Because that's the battle.
We also had a very small church, and
but you
most everybody in the church.
And again, not to pause so much, she says a small church. I'm trying to remember when the Duggars actually even joined a church, because there was a time for a long time JB was doing home church, and all their friends and stuff would come to that. But I remember all the girls got married at that huge like mini mega church. So
was like under the age of 16, probably, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Including Ben.
Like, so there was just about. He turned 8.
Haha, funny, children getting married.
Week after we got an official introduction, so then he was, bumped up a little bit.
Sounded better, yeah.
At least you're an adult. So where was I going with that?
Oh, that was easy to notice him because.
Oh yeah, there were no other guys, so I noticed him right off. I was like, oh, there's a cute guy. Like, there aren't any other guys that are around my age or even remotely. But then I was in like full on denial because my sister.
He didn't even have a driver's license yet when they met. This is breaking my brain. I didn't really think the Seawalds were that bad, but I'm kind of changing my opinion now. Yeah, it just is uncomfy. It's uncomfy to me. I don't think that it's like a Jessa thing necessarily, because personality-wise and as opportunity-wise, she was probably kind of on the same playing field. But it just is like, it makes me uncomfortable that young Ben, who couldn't even drive, was his family and Jessa's family were totally cool with him just having a bunch of adult responsibilities, like getting married
after
and
several
having
times of him
children.
coming up to visit, they were like, oh, that guy definitely likes you. And I was like, no, he doesn't.
Also, I'm gonna go get a little more seltzer. I'll be right back.
He's thinking about going to the university, so he's just checking out the area. I was in full on denial up until the point where he like asked for my phone number, and then I was like, well, he didn't ask any of the other sisters for their phone number, so.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ. I heard it stop while I was walking out the room.
Maybe he likes me.
YouTube has it out for me.
Yeah. Oh, he said, we were having a theological discussion. And he said, so we can continue our theological discussion. But then the first thing he did was text me and say, how about we write out our testimonies and send them to each other? And I was like, this is not the theological discussion we were having. This is way too personal. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I can't, that surprised me when she told me that, because I thought for sure she knew, because
You're being obvious.
Because whenever I asked to get her phone number, her dad called Michelle over, and Jess was standing right there. And he said, Michelle, Ben here is asking to get Jess's number. What do you think? And Mrs. Duggar just exploded with joy. Like, you'd have thought we just got engaged. She said, we've been praying for this day for so long. Like, this is wonderful.
Okay, there's backstory here.
And I was like, well, this is progressing quickly. I just thought I was going to get a phone number. Now it seems like we're engaged.
It's
like, all
so
right.
funny.
So
my parents had been asked to come and speak at his homeschool graduation with a bunch of other homeschool kids from the area where he grew up. So they had gone down there, and everybody got up and gave like a little. Did you give a little speech, or they just told?
No,
about,
they just told like
okay,
a little
they told
short
about
bio.
Your dreams and ambitions and stuff like that. And when Ben had come across the stage, and they had told about like his goals and stuff like that, my dad was very impressed with that. And so he had leaned over to my mom and been like, oh, that's, you noticed that, right? You noticed like they were.
Yeah, they were handing out the diplomas, at the homeschool graduation.
They had already been impressed by him. And then, then this happened, which also the getting my phone number was kind of a funny thing, because he didn't really know like how to approach it in my family. I was the first daughter to be in a relationship. And so he didn't really know, like, do I just walk right up and say, like, can I have your phone number? Or do I need to, like ask the dad permission to get her phone number or whatever? So he just kind of did a hybrid. He, like, walked up to me and he's like, I'm thinking about asking your dad if I can have your phone number. And I was like, cool. Like, I never had a guy say that. They would just usually just get my phone number.
I think why I did that is I was testing the waters a little bit. Like, if she reacted.
Am I like, oh, awesome, great?
Very, like, no, like, oh, then I would know, like, I'm not even going to go to the trouble.
Yeah.
But
so I think you were trying to gauge, like, feel it out, like, okay, what does she think about me?
Trying to figure this out,
moving this along here. Yeah, but I thought that was cute. Anyway, yeah, so then my parents, like, said, I don't know if you just want to talk about theology. They talked to him. I didn't. I wasn't.
Yeah, well, her dad says, I think there's a little more to this than just talking about theology. And Jess is standing right there. And of course, at this point, I'm not going to deny it. I just kind of shrugged and I was like, well.
I denied it. I said, no, it's just the theological conversation we were having.
I can't believe you didn't pick up on my cue there, though.
I was just clueless.
Hey, it worked out.
So, okay, here's an aspect of your relationship that Ginger and I have talked a lot about, because it's not, so come on back, love. This little guy, Finn, he's happy, but babies take a lot of attention. Have you guys noticed?
Yes.
He wants to be on the podcast.
Yeah, he does.
His little sounds are
He's
so
been on it before, but he's just, man, he's cute. But you guys start your relationship and it's intensely public, right?
Yeah.
Like, so how did you ease into that? Because for us,
we didn't.
We actually like not secretly dated. Well, I guess secretly dated us according to the public.
Yeah.
But it was.
So real quick, because I was listening while I was gone. It is interesting. The theology thing, I think, from my memory, is something that continues to be a theme with Jessa and Ben. I think they actually had some like pretty serious like marital issues over it, because they had such serious theological disagreements. And it's funny. It just is funny to me to hear that they were talking about theology, because I have a hard time believing that the Duggar family was having deep theological discussions, like around the infamous table, the breakfast table where they all were homeschooled. I think a lot of their disagreement came from, it sounded like at first, at least, not to say like Jessa is uneducated, but I think a lot of it came from Jessa's like deep misunderstanding of like basic, what's the word? Basic like that kind of like Protestant theology, whereas Ben, even when he was that young, had a little bit of knowledge about it. She had no idea about the theology behind what she practiced. She just knew that people told her this is good because of this and this, and she just kind of went with it. Kind of like weirdly like the speed limit thing. where she just kind of like was like, oh, okay, yeah, God's behind speed limits. Like, I should go the speed limit, you know?
It wasn't a while before it was like, okay, we're ready to go public with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there were things like preparation for me, like, okay, they're going to dig into your life. And like even the crew members would tell me, like I remember Bill telling me, like, you ready? I'm like, ready for what? He's like, oh, like a wave of attention and criticism and scrutiny and all that.
Yeah. So right off the bat, as soon as we were in a relationship, Ben went on his Facebook and changed his Facebook status to in a relationship.
Jessa got married, or Jessa started her relationship first, but Jill got married first. I always get the two conflated. I believe that's right. I think Jill started because Jessa famously has kind of a long courtship for their standards. I think Jill started her courtship while after they had started dating and got married. I think, if I'm, don't quote me, but I think that that's how it went. So then Jessa got married afterwards.
Sweet.
Because it was like a big thing. Jill was like the first big Duggar wedding I remember because I lived out in the middle of nowhere and we had this satellite. I had to like, we had DVR for the first time. It was like one of the first things I recorded on DVR was Jill's wedding.
What you did back then.
It is what you did back then.
So he didn't even think twice about it, but then it was like instantly public. So I think if we could go back and change it, probably if we wanted to have more privacy.
Now, how did they know he was connected to you?
I don't know.
To watch that?
I don't even know. I think probably like family and friends probably started talking and then it got out.
Got it.
But I think if we could go back and change it just to give ourselves a little more privacy on the front end, we probably would have like talked about like, you know, just him being more aware of like, oh, this is just, you're not sharing just with your Facebook friends, like family.
It also is like, again, I should stop apologizing for pausing. Like the fact that it was not, Jessa did not understand the impact of this at this point in the show. The show had been on for a really long time at this point. By the time Jill Duggar got married, it had an insane fan base. Like that was after the time where like my church, which at the time was like a humongous, the biggest church in my community, and like other similar churches had been talking about the Duggars for years because I remember they talked about Jill getting married at, like on Sunday when we saw people. So at this point, she should have had an understanding of how how her actions or how Ben's actions could possibly get out, or just how many people were paying attention, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. There are so many people paying attention to every little move they made. And it's crazy that Jim Bob and Michelle did not make that more of a priority to let them know, like especially online where that's where everybody can see. Not, you know, in your hometown it's one thing, but online, 100%.
And friends, it's gonna go out. And just
if I remember correctly, initially, whenever we just were first texting, I don't think anybody really knew at that point.
Oh yeah.
So we did have some time
for a while.
We had a lot of conversation just over the phone, over text in
Texting
those
about
early
theology.
days.
For the first couple months, yeah.
By the time it went public, by the time our relationship went public, we were both pretty certain that, hey, this is the one.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know.
The vibe I got when they talked about it before is that Jessa really, really thought that they were just theology buddies for a really long time after Ben had an interest. So I wonder when that came actually into play, where she knew
we were prepared.
It was beyond that.
That like we weren't planning to announce that day.
Yeah.
That's I guess what I'm saying.
What was the windfall from that? What happened when you went public unexpectedly?
Here's the 2-minute story of how I built a $10 million a year online business and how my mistakes and successes can help you build your business too. Ready?
Bro, I don't care. I don't care so bad.
Oh, I mean, I don't think there was like negative reactions or any like negative effects other than just, I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to have your own little secret, you know, that the privacy of having your relationship kind of on the download for a while.
I mean,
but it was fine, honestly.
I don't think that we thought about it all that much. I think we were just so excited to be getting to know each other, and the focus was on one another. There was that in the periphery, in the background, but it wasn't really just all consuming.
How did that public, how did the public scrutiny or the public attention put pressure on you guys in those early days?
So I think I appreciated having those first few months of just texting and calling and stuff like that, just without everybody knowing. I liked the privacy factor there for a while. Because yeah, so much of our life was in the limelight. And so it was nice to just have something that was like just between us and our families or whatever for a while. But also that was something that we had to discuss as our relationship progressed, is because my life was so public, it just seems like, oh, you wouldn't care, like anything, just put it out there. But he and his family were very much just like, tell everybody, talk to everybody. Even a lot of like my, friends, like a lot of people in my contacts list in my phone wouldn't have known that I was talking to this guy. But like he just wears everything on his sleeve. So he just tells everybody. So I remember the first time that I visited his church, like a lot of people at my church still didn't know that like we were texting, we were talking, that I like was getting to know this guy, because I just wanted to kind of ease slowly into this and not make it go public, I guess. But then when I visited his church for the first time, everybody in the church, his little church, everybody knew that we were talking, and they would come up to me and treat me like we were like getting married or something. They're like, "Are you Jessa?" And I was like, "Yes, I am."
Yeah.
And it was just like, I mean, it was cute. It was so sweet. People were so excited for us. But like, he was much more public than I was earlier on, I guess. And maybe some of that was just kind of being like a little bit more guarded or whatever.
I mean, we kind of had to learn to be sensitive to each other's way of doing things, I guess. But I remember we had a few conversations of just like you realize if you put this out publicly, if you say this, everybody's going to.
Was that an adjustment for you? I mean, having to figure out how do you navigate that?
A little bit, yeah.
I'm sure.
We had some conversations about it, but I don't remember it being like a terrible learning curve. It wasn't traumatic in any way. But yeah, it just added one more thing that we had to work through and talk about and learn to be sensitive to each other in as well.
Well, I think we wanted to be pretty certain that we really, really liked each other before bringing it into like the television world, because I feel like, I mean, obviously.
You say that, but Ben was telling like everybody already about my dog walked in. Ben was telling his whole church while you were feeling that. I just get this vibe that Jessa maybe was not as certain about it all as Ben was, and that she really just thought that somebody was interested in her theological opinions, which is kind of,
you can't always control that.
bad.
But once you kind of talk about like, oh, we're together, like we're a thing, and then that person disappears from the show, well, that's just weird. And then you get all that. It's hard for them. It's hard for you, So
I agree. I don't think Jessa had an idea of just how big of an audience was paying attention to them all the time. Yeah, I think I think JB and Michelle kept a lot of that from
we
them,
wanted to
if I'm
be
being
pretty
honest.
sure of the direction that our relationship was heading before we went on camera.
Right.
And so
there's
that was
enough
something that was important
pressure.
to us.
There's enough pressure as is.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, like, is this person the one for me? And then you have millions of people looking on.
Right.
And then if you do break up, because there have been breakups on
it
TV,
happens.
but then everyone's going, why? What happened?
Yeah. People read into
Who's
it.
this? Whose decision?
I don't think I think by the time it did start to go pretty public, I was pretty certain, like, hey, I want this to go towards marriage. So I wasn't really thinking about, like, what if it doesn't?
Yeah.
I'm just 18-year-old me. I'm just like, hey, this is great.
18.
We're doing life. This is the one. I don't care if everybody knows it. But yeah, like, definitely that is another layer to it that you'd have had to.
I don't think I was
good to consider.
Not on board either. I think I was on board, but I don't know. Maybe I was just kind of savoring the quietness of it all.
It seems like you were a lot more kind of happy-go-lucky, maybe naive in the sense of like, hey, I like this girl, I don't want to be alone. Whereas Jessa had been getting interest for years from people, and you'd had a lot more exposure in that sense, and you'd had siblings. You're the oldest sibling. You'd seen siblings in relationships, and so you were probably a little more reticent of like, well, let's see if things work out. And he's going, I met this great girl. She's wonderful.
I think that's accurate.
Love, we're getting married.
I'm in love, and I don't care who knows it.
Yeah, exactly. Is that Elf from Will Ferrell from Elf?
So, yes.
And so, yeah, there's like different. Did that create like tension? Were you at points like, hey, dude, chill, like, calm down?
I mean, we definitely had some conversations, just you know, preferences on that regard of like, hey, like, I don't know.
I seem to remember there might have been one or two conversations like that where she's just like, hey, you know.
Not that I wasn't certain about him, but I just liked the.
That more to my point. I think Ben was like charging ahead, and she was like a little bit more like, oh, I don't know about that. Which maybe Jeremy's right. Maybe that's what Jeremy said is actually what it is, and not that she didn't actually want it to be
of it for a time.
romantic.
But then also you can't stay there forever. Like at some point I did want the world.
Yeah,
to
and the only like weird thing for me is like we'd be sitting there talking, and then out of the corner of my eye, all of a sudden I would see this camera inching closer. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, but I'm not supposed to look at the camera though. Oh, okay, I see. Like I knew I'd grown up watching her family show, so I knew the deal. But it did take a little getting used to. Just like, oh, okay, like we're talking, but now we're on camera. Okay.
That's so funny. I thought you were gonna say out of the corner of your eye you would see one of my siblings scowling.
I was gonna say Jim Bob.
Well, I saw that too.
Because that would happen. It was
Saw Jim Bob just coming into frame from the side, like, hello.
so funny. Going into before I was in a relationship, I was like, when I start getting to know a guy, I want every single one of my 19 siblings to love and adore him and get their blessing and approval and just be BFFs with him and all this stuff.
That's a recipe for you're never gonna get married right there.
High expectation. And okay, none of my siblings didn't like him as a person, but I was the first daughter to be in a serious relationship. And so
there was a little more suspicion, I think, because I wasn't from their like friend group, their circle.
He wasn't from the cult.
You know, I'm this stranger, you know, this outsider. And so they're like, yeah, there's a little more guarded, a little more suspicious of me.
Just like Austin, that was the thing with Austin too, was everybody was suspicious of him because he wasn't from the cult, which is crazy because his family, I think, participated in a lot of the conferences and stuff.
And I think some of my sisters, it was probably like they were maybe just like, who is this guy coming in to steal our sister away?
Yeah.
So I remember Joy, especially, it was so cute. She would sit there and she'd be like, who is this guy? What are you? It was like, she would just kind of give us this eye, or she would tell us like, you need to move away from her. Like,
you're sitting too close.
Yeah, she would tell us things, which was so funny. Then when she was in a relationship, we would be teasing her, Joy, do you want us to do to you what you did to us?
No, she was.
Imagine Joy and Austin, when they were together, were like they were connected by everything except
she didn't give
the
us that
mouth.
hard of a time. But she would definitely give Ben the stink eye and be like, I'm watching you.
Oh, I know the stink eye.
You know?
Hey, I needed it, you know?
Yeah.
I forgot Ginger was even a part of this.
So you have,
you probably did.
You had camera lenses staring at you. You had little sibling lenses staring at you.
Yeah.
That's a lot to go into.
Yeah, it was.
At some point, I had to realize, you know what? Not everybody has to like him to the degree that I like him, in the sense that I'm the one who's marrying him. So, like, obviously, I don't want anybody to hate him. If anybody had a genuine concern, I wanted to hear that. But no, it wasn't that. It was just like, who are you taking my sister away? Right. You know, like.
It was a new thing because thinking about, like, okay, are you going to move away?
Which I thought I was.
So I thought Joy talked about how she and Austin were friends for a long time before they started courting. They knew each other for a really long time, for sure. And they were in like the same circles because his family were similar kinds of Baptists, and they went to like the conferences and stuff. And I think like her definition of good friends with a guy was like a guy she's friendly with, that she could says hi to, and that like hangs out with her brother sometimes. I think is like the Fundy Duggar level definition of an opposite sex friend before you're married. Which I honestly don't think she would disagree with. But Austin was not like a part of their core circle. He was kind of an outlier as far as like he would come, like he'd hang out because he was there to hang out with like a boy, like some guy, like either her brothers or something. He was just fundy, like they were fundy enough to be approved to hang out with all the siblings. But what I remember from their interview was that he was not funny enough to not get criticism from her parents and and even her family at the time, because he just did not hold his family didn't hold the exact same what does Jill Rodriguez call it, standards, as far as even just little things like what you swim in or what you listen to or whatever. So he was funny enough. He was the same from a secular perspective, and he was friends with a lot of people too. But their definition of good friends was being cordial with somebody, sometimes when you see them.
For the first good,
From
8 or 9 months,
my opinion,
the plan was I was going to move down where
to like Hot Springs or Little Rock. Now, okay.
What you want to do is save hundreds when Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance.
That's great, but can you ask your friend to stop digging into the green?
I can ask.
So,
maybe Ginger and Jeremy are just monetizing.
I do have to say, I was along on this ride with you. I was able to sit there, be your chaperone at that time. And I remember going down to Little Rock, and there was one time, or Hot Springs area. And there was one time that we were riding in the truck and going back to Ben's driving. For some reason, I was along for the ride on most of your relationship. I knew the ins and outs of a lot of things, but
yeah, you were right there between us.
One thing, I was between you and the truck
because I was like this single.
Yeah, we switched.
Single
I switched
because I was like, that's weird.
You're like, that's strange
to my guy.
But there was one point though that for some reason I missed out knowing about when Ben got his driver's license. So we were sitting there and we were driving along on the back streets,
3-seater truck,
in Hot Springs, I believe. And anyhow.
Thanks for clarifying. It's so hard to weed out the truth from exaggeration with these folks. Yeah, I mean, it's for Joy, he definitely was a close friend. And he was somebody who was trusted enough to be around the family a lot because he came there. So it's like, for these girls, I think, quite frankly, I think Jessa thought Ben was a close friend for a long time, that she was just exchanging ideas with, and she probably hadn't had a lot of opportunities to exchange intellectual theological ideas with somebody. In my kind of conspiracy theory is that she got into it for that reason, and then Ben started getting romantic with it. She was just kind of looking around oh right, I'm talking to a guy, I'm texting a guy without anybody without being in a group chat or something. Obviously her parents were watching, but same kind of
casually points out,
vibe.
oh yeah, that's where I went off in the ditch when it was icy. And he's just casually mentions that. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'll take that into consideration. But you were just whipping around those back streets. And here and there, I was like, okay, I don't know if I should give him driving tips. Then the moment happens. He said, or you said,
I
something. Oh yeah, something about him driving for 9 months. He's only been driving for about.
He's pretty good for
only been driving for 9 months. You're a pretty good driver. And I immediately froze, and I was like, 9 months? So then I started giving him driving tips because I was freaked out, because I am the type of person who, we had all the sibling drivers who would take their turns learning to drive. Whoever got in the driver's seat first, even if they're 14, they just got their permit. They would drive the family to church in the 15-passenger van. So I'd make sure I'd hop out of the van and ride or drive a Suburban or something else to church, because I couldn't.
Oh, she's saying she didn't want to drive with 14-year-olds who had just got their permit. That is crazy. I feel like if only I had $1 every time I said that's crazy.
Not stand to sit in the back of that car thinking my life was in their hands. So funny. But
Jim Bob and Michelle let 14, 15-year-olds with their permit drive 15 people to a motherfucking down the road. That's crazy. That's crazy.
When she said that, he's a pretty good driver for that. And I was thinking, then it started to add up. I was like, wait, so if you've only been driving that long and you were telling me how you just went off in the ditch in the winter, that was just a couple months ago when you went off in the ditch.
Yeah, you're not weird for that.
And that can happen to anybody. But I was like, bro, I don't know if I
was
like
holding
this.
on extra tight.
And then I did start saying, oh, maybe you should slow down, brake before the curve. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, being along for the ride it took on a whole new meaning.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Commitment at that point.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Yeah, and it was a stick shift too. So
And only a year later, after this event, he would get married and start to have 6 children.
it was a
God
little
bless
extra.
it.
I was actually impressed that you were doing that for your first car. Stick shift in that little red Mazda or whatever it was, Toyota something.
Toyota Tacoma.
Tacoma. That was it.
350,000 miles on it.
My uncle's old work truck. I bought it from him with 350,000 miles already on it.
Do you consider that a truck when it's the small little ride? It wasn't even normal Tacoma.
Oh yeah,
It was a little.
Guys have little.
It was a little
money
thing,
when
but
he
it was
sold
strong.
that thing. He
My
got good
uncle
money
made a lot of money working, out of that truck. Hauling windshields
It was a good
around
little
the back.
truck. Let me just say, it was a little tight in there.
It was little.
It was a little tight in there.
I liked it
Very
because
first truck.
I felt it was unpretentious. I felt like
little
he
tight
didn't
in
roll
there.
up in this big, oversized Dodge.
Jacked up.
Bitch, what the hell is he gonna afford at 17? How can he be pretentious at 17 when he's barely just got his driver's license? He can't buy a fancy lifted truck.
being like, oh, look at me. He rolled up his cute little truck, and he wasn't self-conscious about it. Like, he wasn't apologetic or
And he wasn't self-conscious about it. He doesn't have an option.
embarrassed. He was just like,
let's go.
I'm Ben. I'm doing my thing. This is my ride. And I was like,
I'm Ben. I like string cheese. I like my Toyota Tacoma. And these are non-negotiables.
I like that. It was
small town, humble.
I like that.
That's good. Way to go.
Have you guys celebrated 10 years?
Yes. Yep. Last November.
As you look back on your first 10 years, has it gone how you thought it would go?
It seems like a blur.
I know.
So I don't know how we
I bet.
thought it would go, but
Yeah.
it's like you blink and it's like, oh, whoa, we've been married
Girl,
for 10
I
years.
bet.
I know.
You see old pictures and you're like,
blown by.
that seems like it was yesterday.
Micah, honestly, him being barely 17 when they met makes their long courtship make a lot more sense. Girl, yeah, exactly. I think so too. I think they really downplayed how young he was in the show and just in general. I think that was glossed over. And if Ben were a girl, not to be one of those oh, men don't get so I don't think that that's true. But for Ben, I think if he were a woman, this would have been focused on more, especially by people who, in the Fundy Snark community, they would have been a little more on that. But it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me how young he was. And he's 30, he's been married for a decade, and he has 6 fucking children. That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yesterday.
I know. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's been, in so many ways, way more amazing than you could ever imagine. You can't.
And just real quick to be clear, I don't think that this is that's Jessa, that's on Jessa, because I don't think Jessa really had as much of a say in it as at least her parents did and his parents did and all that kind of thing.
Dream of a relationship getting better. You think you're so in love with the person on the day you marry them, and then with each passing year, we've just fallen more in love. I feel like I just love him so much more than I ever thought possible.
I genuinely hope that's true, and that's not just something you're saying.
On the day that we got married.
Platitudes.
And just in the hard times, in the good times, when the kids are sick with a stomach bug and you're both up all night tag teaming, throwing stuff in the laundry and just hanging in there, all the postpartum seasons or whatever. But yeah, just.
You mean postpartum depression?
I think, in my opinion, he's 1,000 times more handsome than the day I met him, and I thought he was the cutest guy in the world.
Well, he looks like an adult now.
Okay.
It's.
Sorry to keep pausing, but he looks like an adult now. That's probably why you think so.
I need to put off about 10 pounds. I'm like, babe, you look amazing. You look amazing. Seriously, he's got this great.
Well,
his.
Let's
change more than a goatee now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to that handlebar mustache. He was headed for handlebar. Look.
Oh no.
He did. He's talking about getting rid of the beard again.
Are you gonna go just for the stash?
I was gonna say don't do it. I was gonna say don't get rid of the beard, but honestly, it kind of works for him. If he could trim it up a bit to kind of match his hair.
I like the mustache look.
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah.
You do that sometimes, right? You go under the mustache.
He does.
And he says it's just high maintenance because if you're trying to.
Nobody asked, but I think Jeremy looks a little bit better with a little facial hair too. I'm a facial hair person though.
To shave every day or whatever, it's not as easy. But then again, all the beard products you use.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but over the 10 years, I mean, I don't know if it's gone exactly like we thought it would go, but not all that
How
different.
did you think
I
it was
mean,
gonna go?
I knew I wanted to be in ministry. I didn't know exactly what that would look like. We knew we wanted to have, a decent number of kids, maybe like.
Want $1,000 weight loss medication for $50?
Well,
It all
Ginge and
starts with
Jer are
Wellspring.
they're certainly
6 or
making
7
a
or
buck
8,
off this.
somewhere in there. And here's number 6, due in July.
That's so crazy.
I mean, yeah, I don't feel like it's gone all that much different than we thought it would.
Are you gonna stop with 6?
I know a lot of Christians. I know a lot of fundamentalists. 6 at 30, like even in this day and age, even for those guys, that's crazy.
So you think you're gonna keep going?
That's the question. If you ask me right now, I would say yes.
I think yes. I think they will have a couple more, 2 to 3 more is my vibe, if not a little more.
But I think we've said that ever since about 3 kids. It's been like, oh yeah, this is the last one. And then, about a year and a half, 2
Maybe Jessa will just keep going. Maybe Jessa will just keep going till she can't no more.
years later, I'm like, babies are just so cute. We just need to have just one more. And then I used whenever it was like number 5 with George, our last.
Stupid fucking reason to keep having kids, but okay.
I said, I'm number 5. 5 is such a special number in my heart.
And then
we should really have 5.
Then you remembered me.
Actually, I did use that. I said, my best friend was number 6 in the family.
Yeah.
We should really have a number 6.
She did say that many times. She's like, we got to at least have 5 because I'm a number 5 in the lineup.
She's
And
like,
so-
remember Ginge?
I said that wouldn't work out so well for like Josie or something. I was number 19, so
Oh, mercy. Oh my
So
goodness.
this is something that a lot of
And Ben's like, I'm tired.
couples, though, it can create a lot of tension. Like one spouse wants to have more kids than the other,
Yeah.
or there's just a different expectation there.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people that have just really struggled through that as a couple.
So you guys feel like you're on the same page?
We haven't always been on the same page. Like there have been times when we've been like, well, are we sure we want to have more? Is this where we should stop?
Right.
Yeah, we had some pretty big conversations, I think, before this one.
Yeah.
Because I think he was like, I'm content here. And I think the main thing is like wanting to know that you have the bandwidth to pour into each individual one. And, if he's feeling like overloaded with work and then like, am I getting enough time with the kids that we already have? And I think that's definitely something to take into consideration.
Right.
I don't think it's just like this, that doesn't matter. Like that's a huge deal. You want to know that you have the capacity.
Yet you did it. He brought up these concerns and you still did it. Interesting.
Capacity to love and nurture each one that God gives you. And so, yeah, so that was definitely something that we've had a lot of.
And that's something I wonder how they balance too, is because her parents did the whole every single pregnancy is God telling you he wants you to have a child thing. And they still use the language like that is pregnancies are God telling you he wants you to have a child. So Ben saying he's like cool with 5, I wonder how those discussions go.
Conversations about, and I think we take it one kid at a time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and I've kind of deferred to her because she's the one carrying the baby and birthing the baby.
yeah,
And
like my
if she was
Okay, but you have to provide for the baby and be a co-parent. So you get, yeah, she carries it, but you get a say. I feel like it should be an
to go
equal
through
say.
all that and have another one, like who am I to be over here like, no, we're stopping right now, So
this is going to be a little
Because you're a co-parent and you have to pay for the baby.
Ginger.
yes, there you go.
So yeah.
Ginger. Nicole.
Well,
which one?
Actually, I'm sorry, I retract that because now that they're all on social media, I guess Jessica can also earn
Which one are you going to go with? Number 6?
So what is your guess on, you think it's a girl or boy?
I haven't told y'all yet.
I think it's a girl.
I voted boy, even though my gut is telling me girl, but I vote boy.
Wait, what would you say?
I said girl.
I'm going to
So,
say girl too.
Historically, we've told y'all the gender of a lot of our babies because y'all are like far away, and I don't feel like people pester
we're
you
not
and
gonna
be like
slip
trying to, get it out of you.
Should we tell them right here live on the podcast?
live.
Make
Not
it.
live.
Should we do the big reveal?
When we cut the cameras. Wow, Ben.
Charlie, just go out the door. You don't have to try to open it. My cat's trying to open the door from the wrong side.
And you're living on the wild side.
You'll have to cut it out, but we'll tell you.
Might as well live on the edge.
Okay, so the gender of your baby. What's the gender of your baby?
It's
Go out the other side. Stinky.
That's so cool, guys.
Well, congratulations. Thanks for telling us.
Thanks for telling us.
That's exciting.
Just,
The
we're
world will know
not
soon.
telling.
So we're gonna cut.
They literally, somebody said on either Fundy Blur or like somewhere on Tumblr, they're edging us with the gender. And they edged us with the gender and they didn't give it to us.
Well, all they no, we're not. They're just gonna hear a beep.
To be for real, I don't really give a fuck.
I like this, and we're not gonna
We'll
talk
keep
about.
the suspense.
Yeah,
But they did edge us.
no.
Yeah, that is exciting. Well, look, this is unfortunate, but you've got a plane to catch, and so we've got to wrap it up here.
We're gonna have to circle back, guys. I
Yeah.
feel like you're gonna want more of Ben and Jess because this is just too good.
It's a lot of fun.
This has
We
been
love talking
great.
to you
Too
guys.
good.
And you have
We'll
a
either
great
fly
time.
you back out for a podcast, or we'll fly to Arkansas and
You come to our.
That was me. They edged us. They used that in the promo of the freaking podcast. They're like, oh, where we're gonna give the gender on the podcast, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They tricked us.
some of the. Yeah, we'll come to the Seewalds studio.
We don't have one yet.
There's so much more to
design
talk
our
about.
studio.
Oh, we should set you guys up
Here's the
with
thing:
it.
is like it's incredible to think that our relationship has gone back 10 years.
Yeah.
Your relationship with her has gone back 31 years.
Bless her heart.
But there's so much more to talk about, and one of the things
Yes, that's Micah says. So birth control is the bigger sin than neglecting the blessings that God has already given you. Got it. Yes. And I'm not being sarcastic at all. I like in this kind of environment and fundamentalist. This goes for Mormons too, fundamentalist Mormons. It absolutely is a bigger deal if you restrict the amount of pregnancies you can have than what you're giving the kids you already have. And like these guys aren't the best example of it because they try to do a lot because they're on social media. They try to seem a certain way and seem like they're doing a lot. But there are tons of families who are doing the absolute bare minimum they can so they can keep having babies, and the kids go uneducated. They go like without socialization with other people besides their family. Like I could rant about it for so long, but like I'm assuming you're saying this as like a sarcastic thing, like, oh, like, yeah, got it. But that's actually the truth. That's literally the truth. Is for the fundamentalists of this flavor in Christianity and fundamentalist Mormons, especially the polygamists, that is how it goes. The kids who are going to come matter more than the kids who have come, because the main underlying thing is that there's a certain, which is also like a funny connection I could rant about too, but fundamentalist evangelicals also think that just like Mormons, which people think Mormons are so different, there's so many kids waiting up in heaven, or souls waiting up in heaven to come down to be born to a certain woman. And they both kind of treat it like that. Like you just have to keep having kids because you're going to leave some of those souls up there, I guess, if you don't have all those kids. And so that's more important, to get all the souls down in your womb, out the hoo-ha, than it is to give the kids who are already there a well-rounded, fulfilling childhood. Sorry, that was kind of a rant.
I think would be really good to talk about coming up in the future is you both have experienced a lot of the same things as mothers, both in the joys of motherhood, but in the loss of
Oh yeah, they'll admit it proudly.
motherhood, having lost little ones in miscarriage. And in hearing both of you talk about that, you have so much insight into it. And I think you both have handled it from my perspective in a way that would be really a blessing to others. So it'd be, I'd love to have a conversation where
Yeah, I'd love
you
to
guys
circle
can
back
talk about that. But
Should.
We love you guys. We're so grateful. I have a particular affinity for you because you've given me my wife, my children, my life. It's all. It's all.
Done it.
The Lord
He uses him.
He uses people.
Ginger nose
and he
scrunch.
used
He
you
did
guys.
the
So
nose scrunch.
appreciate
It's so special to
Jess's nose scrunch also looks like
have
Ginger's.
been a part of that. So
you know what we should
we love
put
you
up
guys.
here? Maybe I'll put this up on the podcast for people to see. Is that first picture we all took together at that little gathering at my house in San Antonio?
Do it. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how different we look, or maybe how similar. I don't think Ben's changed it.
Well, he didn't have the thick beard, and he had his glasses.
And he had his hat that he'd wear like an architect.
What's nobody has except for Jeremy, because Jeremy is significantly older.
Boy, like
yes.
with the
little, like,
hair coming down.
Yeah.
And then he'd put the hat here with the hair coming out.
I was trying to figure out, man, what's the way?
Picture.
Yeah, what's style?
You found your style. You're good.
But we love you guys. We're grateful for you. Thanks for hanging out
Thanks
today.
for sitting down and talking.
Thanks for having us.
We love y'all. It's been great.
Picture. You didn't do it. Man, F you, Jeremy.
It's hard for us to imagine a life with 30.
I feel so bad skipping that. But yeah, okay, so that was it. That was their little interview there. I don't feel like I got as much interesting information as I got like on, especially Joy and Austin. There was a lot of little fun tidbits in there. I feel like Austin especially was a little bit more kind of open with the way he talked about their history and a little bit more honest just about the nature of it. But it was still interesting to listen to. I love anybody who's been on Tumblr knows that Jessa's kind of my pet Duggar. Just like I find her so interesting and a little complicated. And I think Ben is just kind of funny, with his little cheese stick kind of personality guy. But I'm glad I watched it. It was interesting. I would love to hear more from Ben and Jessa, like trying to get a little bit more, I don't know, candid with it. I would love to hear them be a little more candid, but who knows if we'll get that. But I gotta go. I gotta go call somebody. But I appreciate everybody being here and commenting. That was so much fun. I always love watching Ben and Jessa stuff. Thank you for dealing with me on my laptop camera, which I hate. I think is so bad. I'm gonna try to keep working on getting my better cameras working, even though I have a less than ideal setup. But love you guys. Okay, I'm gonna go after that. Excuse me. It was fun watching it. I have a lot of thoughts I'll need to process, and I'll probably spam y'all on Tumblr. So check me out on Tumblr if you want to hear nonsense from my brain. Okay. Alrighty, gotta go to the OBS though before I officially sign out. But again, thank you for being here. It was fun. We'll do it again. Send me things if you see anything you think is worth watching, send it to me because I do love watching funny content online, and I'm just realizing my light is completely blaring me out, that's okay. All the wrinkles are gone. All right, see you guys. Thanks for being here. Bye bye.